Hey y'all, Scott here, E3 2018 you say? Never heard of him. I'm more so interested in demonstrating the potential of hardware. Let's see if this iron passes the durability test. Gonna put that down as a TBA. Tech demos, demonstrations of hardware potential that most of the time have no business being real games. Whenever new hardware is revealed, saying it has 4 gallons of teraflops lodged in it means nothing if we can't see it getting put to good use. Developers have to cobble together something that people can look at and instantly understand just how good games can look, sound, feel, play, all that. These are some of the most interesting parts of a new console generation. These are what could be, rather than what is most of the time. I think it's fair to say the vast majority of tech demos never amount to anything and don't become full-fledged video games. They're just here to visualize a hardware's tech specs. That's not to say they can't become full games or elements from them can't be used on other games. However, developers just have a hankering to tease and decide to make tech demos that look like games people have been begging for, which can be just absolutely cruel if that game isn't actually in development. Take, for example, a Zelda tech demo for the GameCube showcasing a sword fight between Link and Ganondorf. Who's gonna win? A Zelda game for babies, that's who! We know now that The Wind Waker is a fantastic Zelda game, but back then people were expecting Zelda on the GameCube to look mature, epic, a bit dark, and they got this. People were upset because Nintendo showed them this thing they really wanted and didn't give it to them. At first. Tech demos can be pretty cool, but sometimes they end up just disappointing fans. So I will pose the question, what makes a good tech demo? Well, let's take a look at various tech demos from the past and see if we can figure that out for ourselves. Now we can't just talk tech demos and end it there. Today I am introducing the Tech Demometer, patent pending. Each tech demo we look at will be ranked on a scale of 1 to 3 based on completely inconsistent judgment. Don't overthink the ratings, let's just do it. Oh my god, are they remaking Final Fantasy VII in HD? I think they're remaking Final Fantasy VII in HD! They're remaking Final Fantasy VII in HD! This tech demo was shown off at E3 2005 as a showcase for the PlayStation 3 hardware and is a remake of the opening section of Final Fantasy VII. It's just a short clip and honestly doesn't seem that much better than something from the PlayStation 2 or Xbox at the time. Actually, let me rephrase that. Stuff like character models and overall detail in the world is definitely early PS3 quality, but nothing here screams, oh yeah, this shows the power of the PlayStation 3. It felt like a PS2 era cutscene running in real time. Impressive, but not jaw-dropping. All this did was make fans sit there and ask, so when's the Final Fantasy VII remake coming out? Tech demos don't have to become a game that actually releases commercially, but look at this and tell me, oh yeah, just a tech demo, has no business being a real game. After you see the rest of the tech demos we'll be looking at, you can't look at this one and say, that just looks like a tech demo. The fact that this wasn't linked to any potential remake kinda makes me ask the question, what was the point in making this if all it did was end up disappointing fans? The director of the original Final Fantasy VII defended the decision on making the tech demo 9 years later in 2014 by saying that it was the right thing to do at the time. Sure, it makes sense to take something people are familiar with and enhance it this much to show the leap in graphical capabilities, but the way this looks and the way it's presented heavily implies this can be and should be more than a tech demo. Well, 10 years after the tech demo, a Final Fantasy VII remake was officially announced for the PlayStation 4. And just like the tech demo, nothing has happened since. It just seems like this thing has been crab walking in development hell. This tech demo did its job to excite people, but for all the wrong reasons. I don't think it got people excited for the power of the PlayStation 3, it got people excited over a game that didn't exist. Hey, Mario Kart Xxl, I see this was in the era where they were naming tech demos after TV dinners. This wasn't a demo created by Nintendo, instead by Danaris Entertainment Software, somebody's favorite developer. This was an unauthorized prototype showing how the GBA could render 2 background layers at once, plus also utilizing fully rendered 3D characters. I gotta be honest, this looks pretty impressive for the Game Boy Advance. I don't think anybody knows if this was actually pitched to Nintendo at any point, but regardless, never became a game, still cool though and really seems to utilize the GBA hardware well. This is an interesting one. When the PS4 was initially revealed, this demo of an old man's face was shown, but it was at E3 2013 that a full tech demo showcasing the old man was revealed entitled The Dark Sorcerer, developed by Quantic Dream, who developed this downer of an experience, so it's surprising to see them make this tech demo that is completely self-aware and is more of a comedy. I gotta be honest, this is one of the most fun tech demos ever made. It has fun with itself and doesn't come off as teasing fans or unimpressive. It's interesting on its own, but doesn't need to be a full game. It's both a short film and a tech demo. Give this one the full points it deserves. Back when the Kinect was introduced as Project Natal, an infamous tech demo was shown alongside it, presented by Peter Molyneux himself. Project Milo, a demo that involved artificial intelligence so intelligent it was artificial.
Hiya Milo, how you doing?
Hi Claire, you okay?
Actually, I'm a bit nervous.
You? Nervous? I don't believe it.
Basically, you could talk to a video game character and he'd talk right back effortlessly. Maybe a little too effortlessly.
You've got to put these goggles on.
Goggles?
Put them on like this.
Notice what she did. This wasn't acted. She felt the need to reach down.
That's because it's acted! I always had a feeling this was a bit faked. Like, have you ever used a Kinect on the Xbox 360 before? The thing had a hard time figuring out if I had a body. You're expecting me to think it could have a realistic conversation with me? Also, look how fast the Kinect scans in this piece of paper. Like, no. No, that can't be. Listen, this was and still is conceptually really cool, and the fact is there that the original concept of Kinect was much more technologically advanced than the retail product. But this is the only instance where we saw Project Milo in action, so it's hard to believe that it was really that immersive and expansive. Really, the developers could have only programmed the amount of interactivity we saw in the video, like Milo would only be able to respond to the specific things said by that woman, and we wouldn't know any better. But I'll give it 2 points for being pretty cool in the grand scheme of things, and being some pretty cool use of the hardware. Back when the Game Boy Advance was coming out, Nintendo created this demo that is a remake of Yoshi's Story on the Nintendo 64. A Nintendo 64 game running on a Game Boy Advance? Not really. Like I said, it's obviously a remake of the game that runs on the Game Boy Advance. The presentation has been downgraded a fair amount, but I gotta be honest, this is still pretty impressive. It's like how Nintendo remade Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo DS just to prove that the system can do 3D. The problem is that game is tart, while this one never came out and is just as, if not more impressive than 64 DS, just because, hey, it's basically playing a Nintendo 64 game on the hardware that preceded the DS. That's pretty cool. This never became a real-life thing, but unlike the Final Fantasy VII tech demo, this demo wasn't this big extravaganza that was a complete overhaul of how the original game was. This was just proving that the Game Boy Advance was more powerful than many may have assumed, and I think it did its job fairly well. Back when Nintendo was desperately trying to prove the Wii U gamepad's worth, E3 2014 brought with it 2 Wii U tech demos focusing on the 2-screen dynamic. One was Project Guard, a tower defense game where you had to swap between certain camera angles to stop enemies from harming your base. The other was Project Giant Robot, where you're a Project Giant Robot and you're doing specific missions in a city. Guard was turned into the game Star Fox Guard, where it was basically the same but with a Star Fox theme, and Giant Robot was never officially turned into a full game. However, it's speculated that the Nintendo Labo Robot Kit is what became of the project. I thought Guard was kind of a cute use of the gamepad, but Giant Robot always looked like a clunkfest. They worked pretty well as tech demos, but here's the problem. They came out 2 years after the console released. That definitely takes away a lot of the oomph out of a tech demo. Oh, Conker the Squirrel. Definitely at the top of everybody's top 10 alcoholic video game squirrels list is of course the star of the cult classic Nintendo 64 game Conker's Bad Fur Day. After Microsoft purchased the developer Rare, the Conker franchise hasn't been touched all too much. A remake of Bad Fur Day was thrown onto the original Xbox, but other than that, the series has remained relatively dormant. And then, yeah, Young Conker was a tech demo created to demonstrate the tech behind Microsoft HoloLens. Using augmented reality, the thing is actually quite impressive. Other than that, it's a bit of a spit in the face to Conker fans. It's one of the few representations the series has had in the past decade, and it's not at all how fans want to see this character or play something he's in. They could have built this demo around any other character or series, a series that has had more releases or support as of late. But no, make it a cult classic that fans desperately want to see return and make it an augmented reality demo neat. And while we're on the topic of Rare IP tech demos, what the hell was this? Taking Banjo-Kazooie and making it a motion-controlled experience? I don't know what you would call this. Mario tech demos. Let's take a look at these bad boys. Well, Mario 128 seems to be the most well-known. Made to show the power of the GameCube, the title alludes to this being a sequel to Mario 64, but after further inspection, yeah, no. It was constantly stated to be more than just a tech demo, and it would eventually become a full game, but I can't look at 128 Marios running around and immediately state, yeah, that's a game. Cool tech for back in the day, though. Peach's Castle was a demo, again for the GameCube, and was just a large tour of the castle. Neat shit. Luigi's Mansion was once used for tech demo purposes before initially being revealed as a game. You could play with Mario and Wario's face on the DS when it was initially shown. New Super Mario Bros. Me? God, I thought these tech demos were gonna be way more interesting than they turned out. Holy shit, look at all the ping pong balls! Now I gotta get an original Xbox. What better hardware to try to prove the worth of than the Sega 32X, the 32-bit add-on for the Sega Genesis. Here's some rad 90s graphics that Sega threw out there to show just how powerful the 32X is, and whoa, this is literally just a bunch of primitive 3D junk flying at us. This demo knows how to fucking rivet. Now you may have noticed that most of these never reach a solid 3 in the tech demometer, probably because tech demos are never meant to be perfect. They're interesting parts of history, and when new hardware is unveiled, it's cool to see what it's capable of. But it's all about the games that are, you know, actually real. After all this, what does make a good tech demo? And I think the simple answer is something that showcases a hardware's potential without toying with fans' hearts. Most of the time, tech demos aren't representative of any final product, so they can mainly be seen as harmless. They aren't like a yearbook quote which is stuck with you for life. Of course, when I was in the room with the yearbook committee, they took the last thing that I said as my yearbook quote, and when you're in a room full of fucking weirdos, that's how you get a quote that becomes, "Stop licking my neck!"